Hello, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Chegg Presents Zinch Prep. My name is Bob Patterson, and I'm here today with Gil, Sara, and Stephanie. Today we're going to be talking about behind-the-scenes look at the college admissions process. That didn't make sense. Yeah, we'll be talking a behind-the-scenes look. That word's wrong. Taking. It is taking. Okay. Students go through a lot applying to schools, and so do you think the admissions officers even read the applications?
They wouldn't make you do an application if they weren't going to read it. And the great thing about an application is they look at all of it. They look at all the components, not only your grades, your transcripts, all that. They're going to look at your essay. They're going to try to see your voice and see who you are, to see if you're fit in their university.
They aren't just robots with a yes and a no stamp.
Yes, no, yes, no, yes.
You know, stamping each application without checking them out. So it's good to know that you are real people.
Great. So Gil, you are a former admission officer.
And a real person.
And a real person, exactly, not a robot. Can you talk to us a little bit about the process of how admission officers actually make decisions?
Absolutely. Well, admissions officers are the people part of that process. If it was just about numbers and test scores and the bottom line GPA, then a robot could be making the application decisions. Just punch them in and the decision would be made. So being able to take advantage of the information a student provides you in the form of their personal essay, their letters of recommendation from their teachers and guidance counselor, meeting a student face-to-face as part of a personal interview are all ways that an admissions officer will use to get to know that person, because ultimately that person is the student that they have to envision as a member of their campus community. So after an admissions officer receives all of that information, they'll typically make a preliminary decision on an application, on their group of applications from their territory, and bring those decisions to the admissions committee, which is typically made up of other admissions officers with their geographic territories, and admissions leadership, the director, dean of admissions, who will ultimately be making the final decisions on who's admitted. The timing of all of these things varies based on the institution, on what their deadlines are and required materials and their internal processes, but that's the general process of an admissions application decision.
I remember my time working at Stanford University, chairing an admissions committee, how passionate the admission officers would become. Trying to advocate for their student that they read, and to the point that they really get so passionate you can really see real emotion. It's not just handing over a recommendation for a decision, but actually representing the student.
Agreed. Yeah.
So do you remember one particular story for yourself that you remember advocating for a student or an admissions process?
Well, I remember one time I had a student that in her essay for the application was for the forensic science program at the university I was working at, and the title of the essay was case number 4569842. And at that point I said, what the heck am I reading here? Was there something with the essay upload? I didn't know. So I read the essay, and the essay was about, it was basically a narrative of a crime scene investigator who was coming to a crime scene and finding the applicant, the student herself, was dead in her house, and going through the entire process of collecting evidence and writing the story. It was like a Law and Order episode on paper. And at the end of it, what they concluded was that the student had died from the stress and anxiety of not getting into her first choice school, my institution. So I thought to myself, I need to go to her house to make sure she's okay. Right. And then I was able to bring that to the committee and say, this student already understands all of the methods that a crime scene investigator would go through, is very interested in coming to this program, and is qualified. So I was able to really go to bat for that student, and we were able to admit, and ultimately that student enrolled.
But sometimes there are just things that are out of a student's control. So can you talk about how you've worked with some of your students to tell them there are just certain things that are out of their control and what those things were?
Sure, yeah. Luckily, I think the application works in favor of the student because they do have a lot of control in terms of what the admissions committee sees, but there are some things that you just can't change as a student. One of those things is going to be the courses perhaps that your high school offers. So when you're looking at the courses you want to take, do they offer AP courses? Are there honors courses that you can take to boost your GPA? And some schools have those classes and others don't. So when you are submitting your application, you just have to understand that, you know, you've done the best that you can in your high school, and you can't really compare yourself to students from other areas, other districts. And then there's things like the region that you grew up in, geographically speaking. Perhaps you can use that to your advantage if it's, you know, an urban area or even a rural area. That adds to the diversity of a student population at a college, and that can make you stand out. But again, you don't have control over where you grew up and where you live. And also your financial situation. If you're from a lower income family and you think maybe that you won't be able to afford school and that stops you from applying, I think that's a big mistake, because you can actually earn a lot of scholarship money based on your family finances. Again, you don't have control over it, but you can use these things to your advantage.
But the best part is that you are in control of most of the process. You write the application, you send in an essay, you can have an interview. You don't have to be negative and think, oh, all these things are out of my control, what am I going to do? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. You can enhance your application in so many ways, and so you're in control of most things.
Right.
And I think it's really important, too, to remember that it's not this institution that's going to make you happy, it's what you do at the institution. So even if you don't get into that #1 pick, it's going to be in your best interest to do as well as you can at that school and make the experience a good one. So it's really up to you to have the best college experience.
Great. Thank you, Gil. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Stephanie, for all of your insights today, and wish you well with the National College Advising Corps, and Gil, with your continued work in the college admissions world.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
If you have any questions, leave a comment and we'll answer our favorites. If you're looking for more info on college success, make sure to register for our site, find us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. And don't forget to check our blog, where we post daily tips on getting in and paying for school. That's it? Yeah.